How to go about setting up your service accommodation business step by step. In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to kickstart your service accommodation business. Boom, let's get into it. So the first thing you want to make sure that you're doing is setting up your limited company. Super straightforward. You can go on Companies House to do this. It will literally take you, 15 minutes to do. You're paying, 20, 30 pounds to do so. And again, it's very straightforward. And look, you obviously want to make sure that you have your business name to hand before setting it up. But even with that, you can get help from a website called Business Name Generators if you get stuck with coming up with names such as myself. But look, once you got that done, now we want to go about focusing on the website. Now look, when it comes to the two most important things to have to at least allow us to start contacting landlords and estate agents is definitely the company and also the website as well. Now don't get me wrong, everything else I'm going to explain to you is important, but when you're conversating with landlords and estate agents, they're mainly going to focus on those two things and not the other things. So look, when it comes to creating your website, there's a few different ways you can go about doing this. You can either choose to hire someone to do that on your behalf, and you can go on somewhere like Fiverr to find a freelancer to create a decent looking website for you, or even a really nice one. Or the other option is for you to do it for yourself. Some people choose to do this as opposed to hiring someone to do it for them because it is a more cost efficient option, but it will take quite a bit of time to do. It's not a crazy hard thing to do, especially with websites like Squarespace, Wix, GoDaddy. A lot of the times you can pick a template, you can play around with the colors, put your own pictures in there, and also paste in your own text to make it a decent and presentable website. So you can actually build a decent little website yourself without it being too complicated. But the only caveat to that is it's going to take quite a bit of time, and if you're looking to save that time and be time efficient with it, and you're looking to get a really good high quality website, then I'll definitely recommend you hiring someone to do that. You're not spending a crazy amount. You're going to be spending a couple of £100, maybe between 200 to 400. But look, it can be super easy to spend a really long time on that to make sure you're getting the website to look super perfect. I've seen so many people doing this. Trust me when I say you don't have to go about doing that, and if you do, you're going to spend ages on it, and obviously you don't want that. So just make sure you're bearing that in mind. Now look, we spoke about the two main things, the limited company and also the website as well. But what we also need to have in place for this business as well is a business bank account. Now look, I'd recommend for you to go with a digital bank as opposed to a high street bank. And the reason why I'm saying that is because digital banks are a lot easier to open up. They're a lot more straightforward, quicker, and in some cases with some digital banks, you can literally get an account the same day, if not the next day. Whereas with high street banks, you're taking weeks before you even get your first appointment, and they have to take you through the application process, which could take a few more weeks, and it's just a draining process that I wouldn't recommend you do just from the start. Now my recommendations for the banks you should go for will be banks like Tide, Revolut, Monzo Business, just digital banks that you can literally just download on your app and set up pretty quickly. There's actually also another banking app called Anna. Again, I've set a few accounts up on with that digital bank right there, and it took super quick. But to get to this part, you would need to have the limited company set up and also the website set up as well. So make sure you're bearing that in mind. Next thing we want to make sure that we have in place is a professional email domain. What that means is when you're sending out inquiries to landlords and estate agents to take on their properties, you don't want to be sending them an email from name or john@hotmail.co.uk or whatever the case may be, because it's just not a professional email. So look, you want to make sure that you actually have your business name as the main domain on that email. What that means is if it's for myself, I may call it info@saallstarclub.com or yusuf@propertyallstar.com. So this is super important. Make sure you're actually getting that. It's quite a small thing to do, and it's relatively straightforward. You can get that done pretty quickly, but it's these little things that actually make a big difference when you're actually chatting to these people. Because look, the key thing for you when you're speaking to either landlords or estate agent is to give off a certain impression. Now look, you don't have to necessarily lie to these people to let them know, oh yeah, I've got about 89 properties I'm managing at the moment. You don't have to do that, but you more have to come across a certain way to allow them to paint a certain picture in their head about you. And if they're seeing that you have your limited company set up, you have a professional, very nice looking website set up, you have your business email address, you even have a virtual landline, which I'll touch on as well, and you're just coming across someone who's professional, who knows what they're talking about, and someone who comes across as an authority in this field, then that's going to be leaving very good impressions on them, which will increase the chances of them wanting to work with you and actually give you their properties. Because look, at the end of the day, nobody wants to work with an amateur. People want to work with people that know their stuff, that know their shit, and that know what they're talking about. And obviously you need to make sure that you are that person. In order for you to be that person, you need to make sure that first, you're setting yourself up correctly, and second, you obviously have the right knowledge and the right information before approaching these people. So super important. Now look, moving on to the next one after email. I'm actually touching this earlier on. So basically, to get a landline number, all you could do, you could download an app called Virtual Landline. So once you download that app, you set up an account and you pay something like £5-6 a month, and it basically gives you a virtual landline number to use. So if someone calls that virtual landline number, the call is actually going to be forwarded to your mobile. And the reason why this is a really good thing is because a landline number on a website, that says something, that shows a certain level of professionalism. It kind of almost seems as though you're not just one person, but there's a team of you, and it's an actual company that they're dealing with as opposed to just one individual. I mean, I've I've gone on websites and I've seen people with their private mobile numbers on there, just their normal phone numbers, which is fine, but most of the times that usually indicates that that person is a one-man band or one-woman band. Whereas if you have a landline number, like a 0208 or whatever the case may be type of number, that shows, okay, no, this is actually a company that we're dealing with. Again, it goes back to what I said before about giving off a certain impression to these people. So again, a very small thing, but something that will add on to the different things that's giving an impression to that landlord or to that estate agent as well. So next thing you want to make sure you have in place is something called the ICO, or the Information Commissioner's Office. Now look, this is just a scheme that you need to be a part of to make sure that you're protecting your clientele's and your customers' database, for example, their personal information and also things like their emails, their mobile numbers, just to make sure that you don't leak that to everyone. Again, pretty straightforward process. If you're Googling that ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office, you can pretty much sign up with them straight away. I think the cost to that is around £40 per year. So yeah, it's not that expensive at all. So definitely get that to protect yourself because it's super important. Next one we want to move on to is something called the PRS, or the Property Redress Scheme. Now essentially what the Property Redress Scheme is a governing body that all property professionals throughout the UK need to be a part of. Whether you're a letting agent, estate agent, you're a property management company, anybody that's involved with property needs to be a part of that governing body right there. And the idea is, you know, if a tenant or a guest has a complaint to make, they can go to the PRS to complain about you, and then obviously they can take matters into their own hand and, you know, start investigating to resolve the case. So this is actually a must for you to go about joining the PRS, Property Redress Scheme. And there's also another one called the Property Ombudsman, if I'm not mistaken. It's something like that. The Property Ombudsman, that's the one. So either or is completely fine for you to join, but you need to make sure that you're either joining one or the other. The last time I checked, the cost for joining the PRS on a yearly basis, I think they have different packages, but the cheapest one was around just under £150 per year. So you've got that there in place as well. On top of that, the next thing you need, now look, this is more for when you actually have the property as opposed to you just getting yourself set up, but you could definitely have it when you're just getting your business set up, or you could wait until you actually get your first property. Obviously either or, it doesn't really matter, but you definitely need it when you have your first property. And this is to do with the insurances. There's going to be the public liability insurance and also the professional indemnity insurance as well. So these are two super important things that you need to have in place. It's not really that much. I mean, for both of these together, you're probably looking at around £30 per month. So that's the cost of that. And also you have something called contents insurance. Now with contents insurance, if you have your own furniture inside the property, for example, you can actually get contents insurance to insure those furniture. And then if something were to happen to them, maybe a guest damages it or whatever the case may be, then obviously you can go for insurance to, you know, claim it back for your insurance. The cost of that isn't really that much at all. The last time I checked, it was around £12 to £14 per month as well. But again, it's not an absolute must. To be fair, there's been a lot of times where I haven't actually needed to get that in place, or I haven't actually done that, but you can definitely do that just for that extra reassurance and that extra peace of mind. But you know, if you're moving into a property, or if you're taking on a property to where the place is already furnished, you know, it's the landlord's furniture, then you wouldn't really need to do that. In terms of the actual building insurance itself, that's obviously not going to be on you if you're doing rent to rents on these properties, because that's going to be on the landlord himself. But everything I'm just taking you through right now, that was pretty much the whole process that you would have to go through to fully set up your service accommodation rent to rent business. And what I can do just to make it super easier for you, I can actually put a link down below in the description box that will give you access to the PDF document listing all of these things that you need to set yourself up with. So feel free to check that out. And look, once you've gone through that whole process of setting yourself up, there's really nothing else to do aside from taking action. We're talking reaching out to these landlords, reaching out to these estate agents, and really making inquiries to attempt to take on these individuals' properties. And to be fair, from what I've seen, a lot of people do tend to overthink the setup part. They think it comes with loads of complications, loads of legalities, which you need to make sure that you're a part of the right things, etc., etc. And a lot of people actually think that that's the hardest part, when that's really not the case. This part right here, when it comes to getting yourself set up, is a very straightforward part. It's actually the easiest part there is. The hardest part that's actually involved, we're getting involved in this business right here, and I always say it with the different people I'm speaking with, the hardest part is definitely you getting the property from either the landlord or their estate agent, you know, conversating with them to get them to want to work with you, and again, to give you their properties. And if you're approaching them the right way, if you're positioning yourself in a certain way and you're coming across a certain way, then that's obviously going to increase the likelihood of them wanting to work with you. So this is super important. And look, if you're looking to learn more about that in terms of how you can go about approaching these people to pretty much convince them to give you their properties, then look, feel free to register for my masterclass, which is free, by the way, in the link below in the description. And also, if you're looking to get started off with your rent to rent service accommodation journey, you're looking to build up on your knowledge and learn as much as possible before getting started off, this is the place to be, this channel right here, because I'm putting content out there on a weekly basis. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Look, without further ado, I'm gonna let you go, I'm gonna let you do your thing. I'm gonna catch you in the next one.